Wavect, the web-free software company that understands what you want.
Hi everyone, welcome at Wavect. Today with Yassir, who is the co-founder and COO of Brickken, a tokenization platform and protocol. He will tell us more about that shortly. Also, he's lead expert and blockchain lecturer of Master in Blockchain at Nuclio School. And today, as you might already guess, we will talk about tokenization of your company from the tech side. So starting out, I would say thank you, Yassir, for being here and taking the time, and would drop the first question to you. Please tell us, how does your everyday look like? What are you working on? And whatever you want to let us know about yourself.
Hey Kevin, thank you very much for the opportunity of joining you today. So to jump right into it, I'm Yassir, as you said, COO and co-founder of Brickken. I'm digital systems engineer and a digital entrepreneur since 2015. So to go to your question about how my everyday looks like, first is checking the crypto markets, obviously, and with the news that came out lately, we can see how the bear market is affecting everyone. But we all know that in the bear market, it's the right time to build. So we are every day building at Brickken and in a personal level too. So we always go to at least aim to learn something new or optimize something within our ecosystem in general.
That's awesome. Out of curiosity for myself, and because that's the topic of today, how did you get your hands dirty on tokenization? How did it happen, and what was your original, let's say, thought process? Because you are always trying to solve some kind of problem. What problem have you tried to solve?
All right. So 3 years ago, when I met my co-founders, we were thinking of tokenization in the real estate industry, as it was the simplest way or use case of tokenization. So we started our first application, which is centralized. We call it centralized because we deployed a private blockchain network like where we deploy our like security tokens. So the first entry was about security tokens, which are tokens that are representing a real world security. So the legality in this type of tokens is a little bit complicated, but it is the best type for tokenization of assets or real world assets. So that would be like the first, or how we started the idea. But then while being in the tokenization market, we saw that like the different use cases that tokenization have, and we started also studying and figuring out solutions for other problems in the value chain, like for example token management. So now we can say that Brickken has become a tokenization protocol for security tokens for now, but we also want to expand to the other types of tokens like utility tokens, NFTs too, and the token management platform where the tokenizers or the token issuers can manage the token treasury, manage the token holders. In the case of company tokenization, we can also manage the capitalization table, the cap table, and also automation workflows that help for the marketing side too.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. For people now that have never heard of tokenization and might now think, what the heck is that actually, right? Um, would you mind explaining the audience why should you tokenize anything at all? What are the advantages of that?
All right, so I would call motivations for tokenization, or I would split them into three. First one would be the expansion to new investors' personas. So when a company is looking to raise funds, it's always better to expand the audience that we are reaching to in order to raise our funds in a more efficient way. So there is also the compliance part, which is the most important one in nowadays because of the regulations that are being implemented by the different countries in the different continents. And the last one would be the optimization of the investment cycle. So, for example, currently, if I want to invest in a company in the US, for example, or in Italy or another country, I will need to go there, get, for example, in my case, I'm from Morocco, and when we created Brickken in Spain, I had to go first get what they call a NIE, which is a number for foreigners in Spain, before being able to go to the notary and sign the shareholders agreements. But in this case, it's way simpler because anyone across the world can invest in tokens which represent the shares of the company in this use case.
Mm-hmm. So basically, one of the many advantages is making it more accessible to people. Actually, is that
Yes,
correct? Yeah.
that would be one of the motivations. Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting. Because you talked about compliance, right? When people talk about that, we usually think about big corporations that have hundreds of employees and whatsoever. Um, do you think these advantages or tokenization in general makes sense for smaller companies or even startups as well?
Well, I would say it's actually more interesting for startups than large corporates, as it, in my opinion, as decentralization is more like it adds more democracy to the ecosystem, as it first allows everyone to access illiquid markets, for example, real estate, and any market that needs or requires a large capital to enter. So with tokenization, investors can easily access any type of asset without the need of a large capital. So in this case, it's an advantage for startups because it offers first the awareness of the startup, let's say the brand awareness towards the investors in across the world, and also allows them to raise funds, let's say fast. So instead of the long cycles of closing the investors, startups can tokenize, issue a token that represents the shares and sell it easily to investors thanks to the blockchain technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from a VC perspective, I think we all have heard that. It definitely makes sense because because of exit liquidity, just to drop that term here. Um, Speaking of that, do you see some kind of challenges, risks, or let's say even drawbacks when it comes to tokenization of companies, for example?
Well, in my opinion, I think so. we thought about what would be the risks and challenges for companies to tokenize, and we came to the conclusion that based on the stage where the blockchain technology is, and let's say the audience size of the blockchain technology, every startup in the Web3 industry has first, like, let's say, the challenge of user experience. So that would be, in my opinion, the first challenge for companies to tokenize. So they need to find first, like, the easiest way where they can know or understand what they are doing first, and then issue the token, because that would be when you issue a token and like sell it to investors to raise funds, it's I would say a commitment to the investors at the first place. So before jumping in the journey of tokenization, I would say uh, issuers or companies need to find the best place where to understand while tokenizing. So, for example, in our case, in Brickken, we created an ecosystem that includes also what we call experts, who are like service providers in the different countries that are partnering with Brickken and offering their services in legality, for example, the financial side, marketing to our clients or companies tokenizing, which will help the companies to first find where to go in case they need help during tokenization, and understanding easily what like every step is for. So that would be, in my opinion, like the first challenge before tokenizing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fully agree. In general, crypto, the whole
In
Web3
general,
space,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
use case first and user experience. The big topic of the year, I would say,
Well, of the years.
or the years. Yeah, fully agree. Um, what would be, speaking of that, what would be some, let's say, use cases, or can you imagine some cases where it doesn't make sense to tokenize, or do you think it can always make sense?
Well, tokenization can be done by anyone who knows like how to code the smart contract of the token, deploy it in a certain network. But I would say it doesn't make sense in some cases when it's like only for speculation purposes. So, for example, if we take meme coins as an example, I personally don't see any sense in other than like speculation and as crypto boys call it, the FOMO, creating the FOMO within like the investors community and like scamming people in some way. But in our case, and in the case, for example, of security tokens, it has like many risks if you tokenize without making sense, because there is a representation of a real world asset, which like requires a lot of requires a legal framework in order to stay compliant and not be targeted as like for illegal actions. So I would say in tokenization, yeah, can be done by anyone, but in my opinion, like the only case where it doesn't make sense is the meme coins. Well, not the only, but the one that I got right now.
Still having some Dogecoin. Well, since you're from the technical side, correct? How is it done in general? How does tokenization from a technical point of view actually work?
Sure. As I mentioned, it's basically a smart contract of a token that is deployed, but you also need to, for example, to tokenize your company, you need to also put in your smart contract the shareholders agreement, for example, for your investors, because the token gonna represent shares, the bylaws of your company too, and like there is a whole legal framework that is being built based on the location where the company is based. But in our case, uh, like what, like as I mentioned, like to optimize the user experience, we created what we call smart contracts factory, which is like a protocol that deploys smart contracts of tokens based on the input of each company that is being done through our DApp. So it saves a lot of time and resources to like create your token in like a compliant way, because also the experts ecosystem that we have is jumping in to help you through the whole process that we have. So it's pretty simple for anyone to tokenize without like having a technical background in order to create or uh, like personalize, let's say, the token.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, well, that question, not sure if you like it. Um, are there some other approaches, how people might tokenize the assets or the company? You don't need to name any competitors right now. All good. Um, but just like from a purely technical point of view or legal point of view, whatever you know and want to tell.
Uh, okay, so there are many use cases of tokenization, like for example, the tokenization of debt. I won't enter in the like details of it as it's already in our roadmap. So we want to also integrate it in our DApp, in our tokenization protocol specifically. So for now, we are starting with the uh, shares, let's say tokenization or equity tokenization as it's called, and expand to any use case that we see can be done anywhere with like a simple process. So I won't mention any competitors because I would say for us, we have like we are covering many verticals in the value chain that like leave us with only indirect competitors and not like directly or direct competitors that are competing for our solution. So what, like moving from the first part of tokenization, which is the token issuance, to like the token offering part. So for example, for security tokens, there are like the buzzword that is STOs or security token offerings, which is basically launching an offering or an escrow smart contract, if we want to speak technically, that will like gather the investors' funds and give it to the issuer or the issuer of the offering only if they reach a soft cap. So when launching the STO, there are always like two main parameters, which are soft cap and hard cap. So the soft cap is the minimum that is needed by the company in order to operate and reach the milestones or that they want to reach with the ask when raising funds. The hard cap is the maximum they want to raise in that round. So in a fundraising round, in our case, will be called a token offering. So when issuing a token, you can do of course, many token offerings based on your token supply. So you can set from the beginning, as you know, if the token supply is like has a maximum, so it's limited, or you can leave it like open to like mint more tokens later. So it depends on the case of the company to set all the let's say tokenization framework from the beginning before starting the whole journey.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that clarification. When, let's say, a project now comes to you and says, hey, I want to tokenize X, like my assets, like real estate or my company shares, whatsoever, what would be 3 steps that you recommend them doing or checking first?
Okay, so when tokenizing, basically there are 3 main steps. The first one would be the designing the legal framework of the tokenization. So the first part gonna be working with the lawyers to build the legal framework of the whole tokenization and the token. Second part would be the token economy preparation. So now you need financial experts to help you build your tokenomics system and like define, let's say, a utility for the token in the case of a utility token. But in this case, it's more of defining the token allocation, for example, the token supply, etc. And the third one would be the let's say marketing campaigns preparation. So before issuing your token, you need, as you know, in the Web3 industry, you need to build a community. So building the community would be like one of the first steps before like jumping into the tokenization space.
Love this. Basically, a minimum viable community, as many people say, right?
Yes, MVP.
Hey, well, thanks, mate. I really learned a lot. Not sure if you want to add anything else. I will certainly drop all your links that you want me to drop into the YouTube description and everything.
Thank you.
Otherwise, I would say thank you for being here.
Thanks
and yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Wavect, the web-free software company that understands what you want.